Hey, this is Evan, and I just recently wrote an article on my website about nullification, and hopefully, if you don't feel like reading the article, you can watch this short video and gain a little background knowledge on this subject. The topic of nullification is kind of a touchy subject, but it's important to talk about the history of it and why it was used and when it was used and why it's legal. So, let's briefly talk about the history of nullification. As early back as the John Adams administration, not to be confused with John Quincy Adams, but John Adams and the Congress passed what are now known as the Alien and Sedition Acts. The Sedition Acts are the ones that caused up the most stir, and the Sedition Act basically banned people in the states from speaking or printing or writing anything negative against the federal government, and you could be punished by fines or by imprisonment in some cases for breaking this law. Well, according to some people, such as Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, this was a direct violation of the First Amendment, which says that Congress shall not abridge freedom of speech or press, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So Thomas Jefferson and Madison both wrote what are now known as the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions of 1798. These resolutions basically say that if Congress passes a law that is unconstitutional in the eyes of the state, then that state doesn't have to enforce that law in their boundaries. So therefore, the Sedition Acts weren't really law at all because they were unconstitutional and you didn't have to follow them. Unfortunately for nullification, after this, in the modern viewpoint of it, it's looked down upon. It's considered evil. It's treasonous. Only Southerners use it to protect slavery. And if you support nullification or if you even talk about it or think it's a good idea, you clearly want slavery, and that's just not the case. And anyone who says that obviously doesn't know history or what they're even talking about. So it's also important to note that this is not only a Southern thing, and that even the Northern states at certain points tried to nullify federal laws multiple times. One of the most noteworthy examples of Northern states trying to nullify a federal law was during the Embargo Act of 1807. The Jefferson administration during this time period passed an embargo basically banning all trade with any foreign country. This was due to the fact that the United States were having problems with Great Britain and France, and Great Britain was seizing American ships and stealing sailors and putting them in their navy, and this was just causing a problem. And so Jefferson and the Congress passed this embargo, hopefully to get Great Britain to stop in stealing ships and taking sailors. Well, this didn't really work so well. It didn't really hurt Great Britain as much as Jefferson had hoped, and it really just ticked off a lot of northern states. Because northern states were, that was their economy was trade, especially through shipping, because they didn't have planes, so ships the way to get things across to other countries, and this just really angered them. So the northern states tried to nullify this law. They didn't allow Jefferson or the agents that are trying to enforce this law to enforce it. They made it very difficult. In fact, Massachusetts even said that if this law is unconstitutional and we're not going to follow it. This was in 1809, and through these actions, 15 months later, Jefferson and the Congress realized that this was not working. They were just making people angry, and they repealed the act. They didn't necessarily repeal it, but they made it so that they only blocked trade with England and France only, as opposed to the entire world, which kind of quieted the problem, and that's actually a very successful use of nullification, whereas it got the federal government to change what it had passed, because the states were just saying, this is not cool, we're not doing this. So this was not just this southern thing. In fact, like I just for this example, the northern states tried it. So then northern states weren't known for their slavery, and they weren't trying to protect slavery by repealing or nullifying this embargo. It's all now we're gonna try and point out why this is legal. Some people will say, well, you can't nullify a federal law because supremacy clause says all laws and treaties passed by the federal government are supreme law of the land, so there's no way a state could nullify a law. Well, this is not entirely true, because if you read the supremacy clause in Article 6 of the Constitution, it says that all laws and or treaties passed by the federal government, must be in pursuance of the Constitution in order to be supreme. So if Congress passes a law that isn't constitutional, it is not supreme, and the states don't have to follow it. So that's not a very good argument to defend why nullification shouldn't be used or can't be used. It's important to point out the 10th Amendment, which says that all states or all powers not given to the federal government or prohibited to the states by the Constitution are reserved to the states or to the people. So there is no provision in the Constitution that says that a state can't nullify a federal law. So therefore, a state, if it feels a law is unconstitutional, can nullify it, and that is their right, and that is what they can do. Below you'll see the article that I wrote. If you are interested in the topic, I wrote about a little more detail, maybe. And if you have any questions, feel free to post a comment, or if you just think I'm crazy, post a comment, and maybe we can talk about it, or you can email me. I think my email's on the website, but if it's not, it should be posted shortly. And if you feel like you need to talk about it, or you want to ask any questions, feel free to. Thank you for watching. I hope you read the article, and hopefully I'll have some more videos and articles posted soon. Thank you.